What is done is that once the borehole is drilled, water, rather large amounts of water, some people say up to 7 Olympic swimming pools worth of water, just to give you an idea. So it is quite a draw on the local water supply. That's pushed down the borehole at pressures up to 10,000 psi. And at these sorts of pressures, we actually reach the amount of pressure that starts to fracture the rock. It's called its fracture pressure, or lithostatic pressure. And what it does is it creates a series of fractures in the rock that spread out away from the borehole. It's probably up to about 800 metres maximum, according to the latest research. Now, that network of fractures that spreads out into this very tight rock connects the gas within that rock back to the borehole. So a lot of energy, a lot of water, then some other ingredients. A very small part of the actual fracture mix is made up of sandstone or very small pellets. Now the idea is once you create all these lovely fractures, the natural instinct of these fractures is to close again, just like that. But if you put little grains of sand in there, it props them over. So this is where the word proppant comes from. It goes down with the fluid. So you keep it open, but it's not a very efficient process forcing water and sand into rock. There has to be something to ease the passage of this mixture. And that's where the added chemicals come in. And they're a very small proportion of what goes into frac fluid, but it's what causes a lot of problems. What are these chemicals? Is that what's going to cause problems with aquifer pollution? So it's these chemicals, and it's like washing up liquid, that just ease the proppant into the formation, allows the sand to move throughout the formation and keep these fractures open. Now eventually, when you take the fracture away from the fracking job away from the rock, lower the pressure in the borehole, the gas sees that low pressure and starts to come into the borehole and will find its way to the surface. That you can contaminate groundwater supplies, which generally lie about 300 metres and shallower below our feet, from a borehole that's at 2 or 3 kilometres, is in fact a myth. And studies have shown these fractures will not propagate that you induce in the well beyond about 800 metres. However, if you accidentally hit a natural fracture or fault that's already, you could cause some earthquakes at the surface, but it's unlikely you'd be able to propagate fluids through this. So we come to the earthquakes, and that's not a myth. There's fairly good studies now taking place in Texas with a 10-year history of fracking, and I've used the word earthquake, probably wrong. If I use words like micro-earthquake or minor tremor, that would describe what happens. When you fracture the rock at 2 or 3 kilometres, you do feel little rumbles on the surface. There's all that pressure and energy going into the rock to release the hydrocarbons. Yes, I think it's a very good thing for the UK. I don't think it will be another North Sea, but it's certainly sufficient to contribute to us becoming self-sufficient in hydrocarbons again. As you know, we're now importing something like 45% of our gas. By 2020, that's going to be 75% of our gas. A successful shale gas exploration and exploitation and production operation in Northern England could reduce that significantly. And you know, if we do this properly, we can actually start to reduce energy prices. We're not reliant on energy from Russia. We're not reliant on energy and gas from Norway. We're not reliant on importing vast cargoes of LNG from Qatar and the Middle East. Well, the complexity is the fact, I think, it stems from the fact that the industry, scientists like myself, have been quite poor in explaining quite a complex technology of drilling a well, drilling it horizontally, putting a lot of energy in to fracture the rock, and then producing gas to the surface, with the inherent activity and industrial activity that brings with us. People get frightened. It's sort of the unknown that people are scared of. The web itself has helped propagate a lot of myths around this. Now, there should be a debate. With any new industrial process, there should be a debate. But I don't think at the moment it's one that we're really having very sensibly in terms of getting the information out to the general public that this is not something that should be feared. It is good for the country, and it can make a big difference to energy prices in the UK.